What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 43 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. I'd like to give a big shout out to our new listeners from Life Church in Lancaster, PA. Thanks for listening, guys. If you'd like one-on-one counseling, or if you want to start or join an online group using the From A to D curriculum or podcasts, go to my website, www.fromatod.org, and click on the contact page, or leave me a message on Anchor. We'll get into this episode entitled, How Do I Surrender? Step 3 of the 12 steps when we come back. Welcome back to this episode entitled, How Do I Surrender? Step 3 of the 12 steps. Today, as we look at step 3, let's start by reading what it really says. Here goes. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. This is a step of faith, which is the key to unlocking the chains that have held you in the bondage of addiction for so many years. And the prayer of Alcoholics Anonymous for step 3 boldly includes this phrase, relieve me of the bondage of self. Let me say that again. Relieve me of the bondage of self. Sure, that's huge. How do we actually begin to take that step to surrender self, to surrender self-will, and acknowledge the bondage that we've been in addiction because of our self-will? How do we surrender what we have discovered in alcohol, drugs, sex, pornography, gambling, the internet, gaming, binging on food for comfort, or whatever our drug of choice is? How do we surrender these comforters? Even though we know that these things are counterfeit comforters, we also know that they work for us. They may come with consequences, but today they bring the instant gratification we seek. Well, as I said, this is a step of faith. This is a major step to freedom, but it begins with being willing to do it. We struggle with this step because of our desire to keep our independence, our own ideas of how to manage ourselves, and even when we admit we have a problem, we want to manage our recovery ourselves. But our ideas have a history of failing to bring us freedom. We begin to see that our drug of choice, the thing we use to numb our emotional pain, to self-medicate, to escape the reality of our situation or circumstances, has not worked. And that our problem is one of willingness to surrender self-will, to surrender independence, and to trust a higher power for wisdom, vision, course correction, and direction in our life. So how do you turn over your will and life to the care of God as you understand Him? This is the first action step in the 12 steps. Let's talk about how we can take action, how we can actively apply what we're learning in the 12 steps. We'll start by surrendering one decision at a time, one moment at a time. Soon you'll see that the length of time between the moments when you have to consciously decide will grow further apart. And before you know it, you'll realize the peace and joy you have found in your new areas of surrender, and how the anxiety and stress of finding those counterfeit comforters has faded away. British author and religious scholar Andrew Harvey wrote, and I quote, Surrender is deeply misunderstood as an act of weakness. Surrender is the bravest and most lucid thing that a human ever does, and that's why it's so precious to the divine. Great quote. So are you ready to take that brave step of surrender? Let me ask, what is the level of your willingness to do that surrender and be dependent on a higher power? Here's some questions to consider. What parts of your life are you unwilling to surrender? Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's where you live. Maybe it's certain things in your lifestyle. Might be partying or going to clubs. Might be dating, whatever it is. What areas do you feel you still need to be in control of? Well, you might feel you need to be in control of your finances. You might be in control of your job. What things were you taught in your childhood that makes it difficult for you to surrender? Perhaps you were taught, work hard to get ahead, son. There's no free lunch out there. And as a result of that, you've become that guy who can hustle up money anytime he needs it in his addiction. And you don't want to surrender the hustle because the money's good. What things in your life make it difficult for you to surrender? What past hurts are still there paralyzing you and put a barrier between you and your friends, between you and relationships, and potentially between you and your relationship with your higher power? What are the times of betrayal, abandonment, and rejection in your past? And how have they kept you from surrendering in step 3? Remember those times you did pray and you cried out for God to just save you this time, just fix things, and you felt He never answered. So it's tough to go through these questions and think about, how do I actually even trust a higher power? How do I understand that by surrender and becoming dependent on God as I understand Him, I'll actually achieve independence and freedom? Well, I want to give you a picture. View it as the electrical wiring in your house. It brings power into your house, into your life. We quickly become dependent to it. We become dependent on having electricity, and we understand that electricity brings us freedom for a better life. So the key is in understanding what power can do for us. And the second part of this step 3 statement says, as we understand Him. So you're not required to come into this with an understanding of God that equals that of your pastor or your mentor or your parents. But you do need to take a look at, what is your understanding of your higher power? I want to ask you to write that down. We all learn as we read things, as we listen to others talk about things, as we talk about things. But we learn deeply when we write down our thoughts, beliefs, and feelings. So I want to ask you to write down, what attributes do you think of when you try to understand your higher power? So really, what do you need in a higher power? Do you need a rescuer, a deliverer, a protector? Do you need a miracle maker to make your legal charges go away or fix your marriage? Do you want someone to take away your desires and cravings and temptations so you never have to worry about relapsing again? Do you need a healer? Do you need justice and truth? What do you want in your higher power? And when you have that list and you've written it down, put some meat there, put some details on each one, why they're important to you. And you'll have something to discuss with a coach or a sponsor so you can continue to grow in your understanding of your higher power. And as you go through the rest of the 12 steps, you can journal this growth in the journey that you're on. It's okay if your understanding today is honestly, God, I don't even know if you really exist, but I do know I need help. This is an active step of humility, of vulnerability, of reaching out, just to say, I don't know. My way hasn't worked, and I need help. So make the decision to ask for help. Make the decision to get connected and stop isolating. Make the decision to stay connected even after your self-will begins to creep in. You know, when you no longer feel sick and tired of being sick and tired, make that decision to stay connected. We all need a mentor, a counselor, a coach, a pastor, someone to help us understand this journey of transformation that we are on. We need to plug into the power to get connected, get vulnerable, and have someone who can challenge us when we're still in denial or we're minimizing, rationalizing, or blame shifting the behavior that we're still stuck in. In closing, I love this anonymous quote. I hope you do too. Here goes. Surrender all that no longer serves you. Let all that remains buried in your heart come to the surface and be healed. Let there be space for new energies to enter. A new beginning transforms darkness into light. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy these podcasts, please share the link with your friends. If you'd like to support our work with people caught in the snare of addiction, homelessness, or incarceration, please click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.